All set, Mr. Redeker? Good evening. I'd like to call to order the annual reorganizational meeting of the Board of Education of the Goshen Central School District, being held in the boardroom at the Main Street building of the District Administration Building. We're also being live streamed via YouTube on the district YouTube channel. I'd like to welcome back all of our board members and especially welcome our newest board members, Mr. Loftus and Mr. Whedon, to their first meeting. We're glad to have you both with us tonight, and we look forward to working together. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, but I'd also like to ask all of you during our moment of meditation to please keep in mind Ms. Margaret Peg Coleman, a retired nurse from Goshen High School who passed away. Peg Coleman was also the mother of Nancy Clark, one of our 6th grade teachers at C.J. Hunter Middle School. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As I said a moment ago, we have 2 new board members joining us tonight, and I'd like to call on Mrs. Farrell, our district clerk, to go to them and administer the oath of office for them as the most newly elected Board of Education members.
Thank you. Do it standing there. Let me just. Read it, please. It's on. Can't see. That's all.
All right, I, Tom Loftus, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of board member according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
That I, Brett Whedon, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of board member according to the best of my ability.
Again, it's a pleasure to welcome you both. Thank you for your service to the school district and to the community as well. And again, we look forward to working together for the years to come.
Thank you.
So it's that time now that the board will be looking for nominations for the president of the Board of Education for the new year. So I open the floor for nominations for president of the Board of Education for the 22-23 school year.
I nominate Allison Salty. Second.
Any other nominations? Okay, we have a motion on the floor for nomination of Ms. Allison Salty as president. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion carries. Congratulations. Without even having to bang the gavel, I'll turn it right back over to you. That's fun, Kurt's got to do it.
Move into the throne.
I'm going to take your name.
No backs.
I, Allison Salty, solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Board of Education President according to the best of my ability.
We'll gladly now turn the agenda over to you, Mrs. Sullivan.
Okay, I will now ask for nominations for Board Vice President.
Nominate Tom Mullane.
And seconded. Anyone opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Tom Mullane, Vice President.
Brett Conley has been moved here.
I, Thomas Mullane, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Board of Education Vice President according to the best of my ability.
Next on the agenda, item 7.1. I need a motion to approve appointments of certain district officials and their stipends for the 2022-2023 school year. Shannon, Jason. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the appointment of certain district officials and their stipends for the 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And thank you, former Maureen, for consolidating that. Next item, 7.2, I need a motion to approve appointment of district law firm for 2022-2023 school year. Shannon and Tom. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the appointment of Shaw, Harrelson, May, and Lambert, LLP, attorneys at law, as the district's law firm, excluding special education legal services for the 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 7.3, I need a motion to approve appointment of district law firm for the 2022-2023 school year. Fred and Billy? Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the appointment of Thomas, Drohan, Waxman, Pettigrew, and May, attorneys at law, as the district's law firm for special education legal services for the 2022-23 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item, 7.4, I need a motion to approve appointment of independent auditor for 2022-2023 school year. Shannon and Billy? Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the appointment of Nugent and Hausler, PC, as independent auditor for the 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 7.5, I need a motion to approve internal auditor firm for the 2022-2023 school year. Brett and Jason? Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the appointment of Cooper Arias, LLP, as internal auditors to perform updated risk assessment testing for the 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 7.6, I need a motion to approve appointment of broker of record for 2022-2023 school year. Jason, Billy? Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the appointment of NYSER and U.S. Employee Benefits Service Group as brokers of record for the 2022-2023 school year. All in favor? Opposed? Item 7.7, I need a motion to approve appointment of district physician for the 2022-2023 school year. Tom and Brett. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the appointment of Dr. Nicholas Velasco for the 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's see, 27.8. I need a motion to approve appointment of district voting delegate for the OXPA for the 2022-2023 school year. Did we? Yeah, we should talk about that.
You want to do it again, Jared?
No.
You goes to the,
I'm good for alternate.
You're good
you
for
should
all.
go to the two new guys.
Tom, would you like to?
Let's tell them what it entails.
It's usually two meetings a month, and are they doing them virtual or in person?
Yeah, and it usually ended up to just be once a month, and it's virtual.
And it's basically the board that goes. And then you bring the information to us.
Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I did it for several,
Thank you.
I did it for several
Thank
years.
you.
There were so many smiling faces.
We all
Feel like
we all
it's right
wasn't
in.
making eye contact.
Shannon
I'm just glad Brett's
respectfully
pretty big, you can do it.
declined.
That peripheral.
It's not that. It's not. I did do it for several years. So I
very
wouldn't ask anyone to do something I didn't do. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the appointment of Tom Loftus as the district's voting delegate for the Orange County School Boards Association. Oh, do we answer? Do you have a motion? I don't know. Okay. I need a motion.
Let's have this one
Yeah.
second. Do we do a motion?
I was thinking that, and you, Charles, I don't think we said it.
All right, well, I have Shannon, anyone else? And Billy, sorry. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the appointment of Tom Loftus as the district's voting delegate for the Orange County School Boards Association for the 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then I need a motion to approve the appointment of the district alternate voting delegate for OXPA. Jason, Tom? Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the appointment of Brett Whedon as the district's alternate voting delegate for the Orange County School Boards Association for the 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7.9, I need a motion to approve the 2022-2023 designations. Jason and Brett. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the following designations: official newspapers, official depositories, treasurer or deputy treasurer as sole signer of checks, petty cash accounts, and approval of current mileage rate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 7.10, I need a motion to approve authorization of the Superintendent of Schools. Jason and Shannon. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves authorization of the superintendent as presented for the 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 7.11, I need a motion to approve appointment of district designee impartial hearing officer. That's technically,
Usually is the
okay, so is that?
You have to be, you want to learn what that entails, or?
Well,
Yeah, I already read about it, I was gonna say.
yeah, when there's gonna be an impartial hearing, we're required by law to get a hearing officer within a certain period of time. And we may miss a board meeting to do that, so that would give you the authority to appoint a hearing officer, and then we ratify it at the next meeting.
Did I get a motion? I need a motion to approve the appointment of district designee. I have Jason and Tom. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the appointment of Allison Salty as the district's designee to appoint an impartial hearing officer. All those in favor? Opposed? Item 712, I need a motion to approve Capital Region BOCES Communications Specialist. We have Shannon and Tom. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education agrees to continue their contract with Capital Region BOCES for a Tier 4 Enhanced Communications Specialist position with the understanding that this position is eligible at the BOCES A grade. All those in favor? Opposed? Item 713, I need a motion to approve acting principal's resolution. Shannon and Billy. Be it resolved, in the event that a school principal is not physically present in the respective school on one or more days or portions thereof during the 2022-2023 school year, that the following positions be appointed acting principal for all purposes, including short-term student discipline matters pursuant to section 3214 of the New York State Education Law. Do you want me to read through each position?
As presented.
As presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Item 714, I need a motion to approve non-resident tuition rates. Shannon and Jason. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education sets the non-resident tuition rates for the 2022-2023 school year as follows. Grades K through 6, $13,262 per year. Grades 7 through 12, $14,579 per year. All those in favor? Opposed? Item 8, I need a motion to approve readoption of policies and code of ethics in effect at close of previous year. Tom, Jason? Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the readoption of policies and code of ethics in effect at the close of the previous year. All those in favor? Opposed? And then I just go into closing this meeting and then we'll reopen it. We do need to talk. We can do that.
Or we can do it later at the end.
Do you want to talk about the different subcommittees?
Pretty good, huh?
Yeah, okay. Currently, technology, we have Jason and Billy. Any thoughts? Do you want to stay on those committees?
Tom has a good background in technology, haven't you?
Yes, I was actually going to volunteer for that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You guys want me to stay on or?
I'd like to stay on.
I like to hop down. I'd like to hop over to audit, and go back to audit.
I'd like to come off of audit. If that's okay. Does anyone else want to come on to audit? We have Jason and Shannon in.
I could jump on whatever.
Safety, we have Tom and Jason.
Totally volunteer.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Tom, you want to take my spot or you want me to go to the planning, school planning?
Yes.
You interested in that?
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, you want to contact?
Okay. Tom, you want to stay in this one? And then we already talked about the delegates. We need an alternate for his vote. Any thoughts?
All that is,
Yeah. Thank you. On the Policy and Procedure Committee, I have no problem staying on that. We have Tom on that also. Anyone else want to jump on that one? Thank you. Maureen, were you able to hear? Policy, we have Jason and Tom Elaine and me. Do you want me to distinguish between the terms? I don't know, that's why I kind of like got like a little stuck when I looked, I was like,
Right.
which
I
term?
was listening, I just didn't have.
Yeah, no, I'm
Much
just
better
wondering. Yeah, just wondering if, no, I didn't know if I should call one Thomas, one Tom, or just leave them both Tom. Okay. Oh, in the negotiations committee, right now we have Jason, I can hop on that one. I'll do that too. You'll do that with him?
There are three of us.
Right, okay. Thanks, Shannon.
Where did you leave off with policy?
Hmm?
Where did you leave off with policy?
Jason, Tom, and May. This Tom, you're on technology, safety, and facilities, right? And then you're also the delegate. Unless you wanted to really jump on more. Negotiations is the three of us. Okay. So we feel good about that? We're good? This doesn't have to be in stone. I mean, if you guys, if you have a,
Tom, you want to order it or?
Stick with this to start.
You okay? I can jump off in there.
Yeah.
I got a lot more back.
I think that you need to probably stay a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I could always hop off. I mean, we can still talk about it, Brad. It's not.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah. All right, good. Okay. So you have everything? Okay. Thank you. Great. That's what I was thinking too. All right, can I have a motion to close the meeting? Shannon, Billy? All those in favor? Opposed? And then, do you want me to do the regular, meeting start? Do we have to do the pledge and everything again?
Yeah, I was just gonna go right into the,
Just a regular board meeting? Do we want to take a break? Good? I can pull it. Right. Okay, yeah, I'm going, okay. All right, we gotta tell Maureen.
Just a quick little,
We had just another sidebar.
I think Brett's gonna go on negotiations. Yeah, with the background there. Allison's gonna hop back to audit. What's up? I don't have to go on audit. You can stay on audit and Brett can hop in negotiations.
Sure, come.
the order would be Shannon.
Billy and Allison's
Billy,
stay. Negotiations, me, Shannon, and Brett.
And then we just have to come up with a chair for, audit. I can not be the chair. And technically we close the meeting.
Let me do that.
I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Goshen Central School District. We're live streaming via YouTube. We're not doing the pledge. Next on the agenda is tenure. We'll turn that over to Dr. Prince.
So I'd like to call Dr. Wentworth forward, please. So when we have the opportunity to recognize the accomplishments of an educator, it is always a fine moment to be able to recognize the accomplishments that educator has brought forward. Tonight, we're asking the Board of Education to recognize the work of Dr. Wentworth serving as principal of Goshen Intermediate School. I believe that he has met all the requirements for recommendation for tenure. I've presented subsequently all of my recommendations to the board, and I ask for your consideration this evening for your vote and affirmation for tenure. So with that, I will turn it over to the board.
I need a motion for appointment of tenure for Dr. Matthew Wentworth. Shannon and Billy? Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the tenure appointment of Dr. Matthew Wentworth in the tenure area of General Administration, effective July 23rd, 2022.
Speech. Thank you to everyone, and especially to the staff at GIS for 4 years of wonderful support and going along with some of our crazy ideas. So I'll just leave it at that.
Next on the agenda is privilege of the floor, and I'd like to remind those that are speaking with privilege of the floor that persons wishing to speak should first be recognized by the president and identify themselves. Any group or organization wishing to address the board must identify a single spokesperson. Comments shall be brief and concise, generally not exceeding 2 minutes in length per speaker, which may be extended at the discretion of the board president. Speakers may comment on matters related to district business only. The board will not permit in public sessions discussions involving individual district personnel or students. Persons wishing to discuss matters involving individual district personnel or students should present their comments and or concerns to the superintendent during regular business hours. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Obscene language, libelous statements, threats of violence, statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice will not be tolerated. Do I have anyone for privilege of the floor?
You have
2 minutes.
do we have sign up?
That's fine.
Okay. Time to go.
Oh, no, it's
No,
not.
we're
still trying to sign
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
yeah, already
yeah.
can. No, and also too, I should say that we now have a podium, so we have a place for the speaker, so that we have a microphone, and it's a lot more clear for those that are listening in. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the president's report, and I guess that's me. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who is supporting me, who has faith that I will run the 2022-2023 school year. I will definitely do my best. I've been on the board 8 years, and I'm really passionate about Goshen, as I'm sure if you know me, you know that I am. So hopefully I'll do my best. And I have some really big shoes to fill. Although I can say I will not miss your little notes on the back of the your bills, your utility bill on Friday mornings when we sit at the agenda meeting. But I do look forward to working with all of you. I'd like to welcome Tom and Brett aboard, and really look forward to working with both of you as well. Okay, so thank you again. That's all I have tonight. Next on the agenda is the legislative update.
There was nothing to since summer hit.
Thank you. And next on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Curtis Phillips.
Thank you very much. So the first item, and I will pass this book to my right to our newest board members. So I had shared with the board earlier this year that Orange Ulster BOCES is considering its own capital improvement project, and the binder that I just shared with you, I had an opportunity to share with other board members earlier this year, and I'll make sure you get a scanned copy as well. But BOCES is at the point now where their project is starting to take shape. As a member of the Orange Ulster BOCES consortium, BOCES now is going to make an attempt to come to each respective school district that is a member district and present the project as it currently stands. So what they're asking for is on August 1st, permission to come and formally make a presentation with their leadership team. The other thing, and this is where I'll ask Ms. Lamoran to help me, the board is going to need to consider, if the project is going to move forward, how that project will be financed. And one of the things I explained to the board, there's going to be two options. Either number one is what they call an Inter-Municipal Agreement. You'll hear it described as an IMA regularly, where each respective district would have to either pay their portion of the project out of reserve funds or borrow independently and essentially pay their bill to BOCES. Every member district within the BOCES consortium will be asked to vote on that prior to the project itself being voted on. If even one school district does not vote to affirm using an IMA to finance the project, then the IMA stops, and BOCES is then required to do the financing on their own. The downside to that for BOCES is they incur all of the borrowing costs, and you lose some of the scope of work, and it slows the work down, if you will. The one thing I will say, we do have many students that attend both the Gibson Road CTEC program and the special education programs. We have not had an opportunity to visit those facilities, but I would encourage the board to consider that. The BOCES facilities on Gibson Road certainly need work, especially the special education facilities. Those buildings are very tired. I don't think the work that BOCES is asking for is superfluous. It's work that they have to do, from roofs to windows to paving to water issues to plumbing. The work that they're really doing is needed work. They are asking for work both at Gibson Road and in Arden Hill. One of the things that they are basically pushing for, if you will, is trying to bring and keep more students that get referred from special education in district, if you will, in the Orange Ulster district. Right now, I forgot the percentage that they put out. Many of the referrals that go from special education from member districts are either being transported to Rockland BOCES or to Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES as well. Them being able to finish some additional space at Arden Hill would allow them to keep more of those districts within district at the same time. So if it's okay, if I can affirm for them that it would be okay for them to come and present, their district superintendent will come, their leadership team will come. They will speak directly on where the scope of work stands. They'll probably speak further to the IMA agreement, and they'll have an updated presentation on the scope of work, but just so you have a copy of that to see what they presented months ago as well. But again, I'll make sure you get a scanned copy of it as well so you can look at it.
What's the time frame?
So they are looking right now as it's tracking for a vote in the fall, but remember there would have to essentially be two votes, if you will. Districts will be asked, they are going to be asking districts to consider the IMA, the Inter-Municipal Agreement for the borrowing. That will have to happen first, and then the scope of work project, the physical project itself would come later in the fall.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
When was the last time they did a capital improvement, and how did the financing go last time around? Did they go IMA or?
So the last capital improvement project they did was actually the Arden Hill campus. I don't want to misspeak. I don't know if you know how they borrowed to complete the work at Arden Hill. We can find out though. I'm not sure, but that was when the hospital closed. They're not only the purchase of the property, but the current improvements that they've made. Again, I would encourage the board, if you're so inclined, to go and visit all their facilities. Arden Hill, the third floor is completely empty, which they are looking to convert to classroom space. The back wing is completely empty. They're actually looking to increase the size of gym space, so it becomes a competitive gym, if you will, which they offered us space. They know that here in Goshen, gym space is at a premium for indoor basketball. They're really looking to do some nice upgrades to that facility, but specifically at Gibson Road, some of those classrooms are really, they're in tough shape. Over there.
They did that construction about 10 years. It's been a long
On Arden Hill is about 10 years now. And to be honest, my understanding, and I shouldn't misspeak, essentially they ran out of funding, and that was why they had to stop where they were, and they weren't able to finish the project in its entirety. Other questions on BOCES? So I'm okay to invite them forward. Great, thank you. The district guidance plan. So I did share with you an updated version of the district guidance plan. I want to point out some important pieces from the last version that you've seen. Much of the last copy that you saw was in narrative format. Being able to make this more readable and understandable, perhaps I'm making up words there, forgive me. One of the things that the committee talked about was really, how do we assess, how do we know if the product that we're putting forth, i.e. the guidance services that we're offering, are effective? So we took off of the state ed website when they started to give exemplars of different guidance plans that are being put out around the state, this modified format of what's the service, what's the objective, what resources are needed, and then how will we assess. We had two subcommittees within the guidance team, if you will, reviewing this, that we looked at program services from a K-5 perspective, and then we also looked at program services from a 6-12 perspective. Obviously, the one thing to keep in mind, grade 6 is that transitional year where it's housed in our middle school, but it's still technically an elementary year. That's a huge transitional year that the support staff at our middle school does a great job at helping our students transition. So if you look at some of the narration that's here, you will see some overlap between grade 5 and grade 6. Once we start to talk about grade 7 and above, you'll see that the tone of the conversation in the plan becomes far more academic. We start to talk about tracking and coursework. We start to talk about thinking about college planning, more counselor notes, different classroom activities that are streamlined towards thinking about post-secondary education. The team did a really good job at looking at how do we incorporate those activities. We tried to draw in many of the requests of the board in this revision. It speaks specifically to Naviance. It starts to talk about vocational training. We've had several meetings with high school staff, with Joe Fedor and Danielle Luguanti, about expansion on the vocational side, as the board had asked us to do. They are primed and ready to go. I've already had conversations with the Chamber of Commerce, who has businesses that will willingly take on interns once we're ready to go. So I think we're headed in the right direction. Then the very last part, I think one of the requests of the board was to consider what do we do when, and when can parents expect certain things to happen. So we have a tentative calendar for our guidance departments to use as a barometer, if you will, to stay on track as they communicate with families about different programs and events to expect throughout the school year that the guidance office might specifically be involved in, or supporting administration and classroom teachers. That being said, I know that this is the first organized fashion that you've seen of this. There's been no substantive changes. Again, we took a lot of the narration that was in the draft copy and just organized it so it was neater and cleaner for you to see. But if the board is comfortable, after answering any questions, of course, I would ask the board for consideration for approving this by resolution so that we can move forward with implementation going into the new year. Glad to answer any questions, address any concerns. And I take zero credit for this. We had a really nice cross-section of administrators, classroom teachers, clinicians that sat and did a lot of legwork, inclusive of a parent member on here as well. And I think the conversation was very productive. One of the things, besides measurement, that was one of the things that the teachers kept coming back to. How do we measure the effectiveness of the plan that we have in place and the services that we offer? But at the same time, how do we make sure that we're staying on task and it's truly reflective of practice? That was really the meaty conversation that happened during the committee meetings.
How are we gonna roll this out? Just on the website, give it to them? How are we gonna let the parents know with this calendar? Because they really need to read this.
Yep, so I think it's twofold. One of the things that many of us spoke about, that there were too many objectives in there before. So this plan is actually about 11 pages shorter than it was before. There were too many objectives that if you try to do too many things at once, you're not going to achieve them. Number one, it was shorter. Number two is that communication plan. I think it is incumbent upon the clinicians and the school leadership now to share this with families and show that we're actually effectuating this, not just in the classrooms for push-in services that we're doing with students, for the actual programs that parents are invited to. It needs to be specific in our communication plan that we've got this great guidance plan. Here's how we're going to put this into action. That needs to be backed up by Mr. Carter and myself at district office. So those levels of communication that families are receiving, again, as we talk about strategic planning and that K-12 vision, that we're all communicating the same message.
this something we're able, do we have to vote on it tonight, or can we vote on it the next time we meet?
It's purely at the discretion of the board. If there's still questions, then we can take it off and vote on it next week.
I'd just like to read through the whole thing.
Sure. Again, there's no substantive change, it's all formatted. I have no issue, that's up to the board. Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
It's good.
I'd like to wait.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next item would be the strategic planning document that the board has seen. I don't know if the board wants, there's been 0 changes to this, no formatting changes, no nothing. This is exactly as the board has seen it already. So if the board wants to go in tandem with strategic plan and guidance plan, that's completely up to the board. But there's been 0 changes on this since the last time we've seen it.
No, I think that we can do it right at the next meeting too, because then it gives our new members a chance to.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for that.
And then the last non-agenda item, actually, that I think that we need to, I would ask the board to come to resolve on is obviously the issue of the international trip. I did share with the Board of Education some updates. I met with Mrs. Panther again to get information from World Strides and where we stand. World Strides made yet another turn on us, that they're now going to hold us accountable for a 1-to-1 simply from the amount of time that has passed since when we canceled. All the other items basically are staying in place that they have discussed, but essentially they will not reimburse until that seat is filled. Mrs. Panther did affirm that there are 17 families that are still interested in traveling, which would mean she'd have to come up with 14 new families. She believes that there's 5 right off the bat, that if the board does approve the trip, that would sign up right away again, but she would, I urge the board to make a decision on this as soon as possible, if not tonight. The runway between the actual trip and the approval is much shorter than it has been in the past, and we would be asking new families to take on essentially about $3,800 for the trip. So I'm happy to answer anything else beyond the notes that I already shared with the board, but Mrs. Panther and I spent a lot of time together just making sure that we were as clear as possible in everything that we knew and that we understood.
So you would just be looking for us to okay the trip, approve the trip?
So as soon as the trip is approved, so the difficult spot is we do not have a contract. The school district itself has no contractual agreement with World Strides. Essentially, all we're doing is authorizing one of our staff members to be the lead chaperone on this trip. All of the financial obligations, everything exists between the family and World Strides, which makes it difficult for us to be able to sit in any kind of driver's seat with negotiation. That's a difficult spot for us because we are authorizing the trip, but it's also kind of where we stand. I don't mean to be that blunt, but it's really where we stand.
So if we authorize it, it's helping out the parents that are essentially wanting to be whole, to make whole.
It is a way for the district to help those parents to be made whole. The liability still stands that if we get 28, and if you look at it as one pool of money, that there's probably about $3,300 for some set of families that still needs to be covered.
And we could be on the hook for that.
We could be on the hook for that, but if the board chooses not to authorize the trip, it's probably a liability of about $33,000. Because then we'd have to make everyone whole.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily right. I mean, we don't have to make them whole.
That's up to the board. So
Technically,
the worst case scenario is if the trip is
If
canceled.
we decide.
That is correct. Correct. That's the worst case scenario. If the board decided to make everyone
Right.
whole, that would be what the district would be on.
Does the group going forward, I mean, my other peers will be here in 3 months in the same scenario, and COVID outbreak, and we got canceled trip again. Does this new group understand that we have the right to cancel the trip?
So if the board does that, I will meet directly with the families, with Mrs. Panther, to go through all of this before they commit to go.
And we'll also be given the actual cutoff from World Strides as to when they will, the cancellation.
Yep.
And the understanding, I think, has been presented here, that this is a grandfather, basically, I think, personally, I think to help them out any way we can, you know? You know, my stance really hasn't changed. I think my grandfather was last trip in, give them a chance to use it.
But we wouldn't be able to finalize anything until that timeframe, so we're looking at the spring of 2023.
So they're looking at the winter recess trip.
That's right.
So this would be a trip to Barcelona instead of Eastern Europe. We're trying to pull away from the conflict area and give a comparable experience to those students.
So it would be the December timeframe.
February.
February, after.
I got on the notes and that's in there,
So then, do we want to approve the trip at this point? Do we want to approve the trip to Barcelona?
Yeah, word correctly.
Yeah, Maureen, can worry about it. Do I need to do a motion?
Do
want to do that.
we need a quick pause just to go look up the old resolutions as you see as appropriate?
We can come back to it too.
Yeah. About.
Okay. Okay, that is it for my report for tonight. So,
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, the Assistant Superintendent for Business Report, Maureen Van Putt Lamoran.
Thank you. I just had a couple brief things. I wanted to let you know that the current tax certiorari reserve has a balance of a little over $3.47 million. So there's plenty to cover the settlements that are on the agenda for tonight's meeting. We will not have to use any budgetary funds for that. And I'm going to be updating the reserve because we get more tax certs during the summer. So we'll have more to update the reserve with. And I'll have another report for you probably at the end of the summer when the audit is finished, when the books are closed. And that's it for the tax cert. And then also tonight in your board packet, I have a financial reporting calendar that runs in sync with your board meeting dates. And the reason I put this out for you is because some months there are no financial reports, and that's because we get the bank statements in later. They don't always come or are available on the first of every month, and then it takes time to close out the books. And sometimes our meetings are early, within the first week or two of the month. So that's why you'll see some months will have two reporting financial statements for the month and others none. I think there's only two that we really have any. But I just wanted to try and help give you some assistance as to why you're not seeing them from time to time, or maybe you'll be glad not to see them. But some months you'll get too many. So that's all I really have for now. Any questions?
No, thank you, and I was remiss in not welcoming you. That's all. Looking forward to working with you too.
Me too. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Next on the agenda, we have the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, Personnel, and Technology, Mr. Jason Carter.
Thank you, Ms. Salty. Good evening, everyone. Just a quick update on the Gladiator Games Summer Enrichment Program. So the program did kick off on Thursday, July 7th. Currently have 126 students enrolled and attending. We do have transportation available for them as well. We have a healthy amount of faculty and staff members joining us, so I'd like to say thank you to all of those giving up some time in the summer to help our children close some deficiencies and learn a lot of great things in our buildings. Currently our focus is on reading comprehension and writing skills, math foundational skills, some Algebra 1 and even geometry at the high school level, and a healthy dose of SEL, social emotional learning as well. Again, this will run from July 7th through August 12th, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Transportation is provided. And if you do recall some of the conversations we've had in the past, this right now is funded through our ESSER 2, Year 2 funding, along with the ARP, ESSER Part 2, and so on. So a lot of the CRISA grant money, this is what we have written it for. So we're beginning to utilize those things. That is my short report this evening.
Anyone have any questions with Gladiator Games?
How many, like approximately, like how many students do you have for
elementary, secondary?
Sure. So we have 45 children in Scotchtown, 39 children from GIS. We have 28 total students, including those that are moving up from 8th grade. So 28 coming out of C.J. Hooker, and we have 14 students currently attending from grades 10 through 12. It's also important to note that we have 12 of our 8th grade students that are moving up to become freshmen attending at the high school. And this was all by teacher recommendation, teacher discretion, and also school counselor discretion and recommendation. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, could you just tell me the SAS numbers and the GIS number again?
Sure, 45 at SAS, 39 GIS.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know it's not on your agenda, but the UPK lottery is Friday, right?
So we are working diligently toward the UPK lottery, and also working with our provider to move forward. And I'd like to just recognize Michelle Serra for all of her hard work in organizing as well.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. I need a motion. Shannon and Billy. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Brian Hayden, custodial worker, effective July 30th, 2022. Mr. Hayden has been with the district for 15 years. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Rebecca Jane Pantoni, teacher aide, effective July 15th, 2022. Ms. Pantoni has been with the district for 13 years. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Michelle Galloway, teacher aide, effective July 15th, 2022. Ms. Galloway has been with the district for 21 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the remainder of the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? I don't believe that there's any old business. Next, new business. 12.1, I need a motion for minutes. Brett and Jason. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the minutes for the June 27th, 2022 regular board meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 12.2, I need a motion to approve the 2022-2023 board meeting schedule. Tom and Tom? Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the 2022-2023 board meeting schedule as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item 12.3, I need, I'm sorry. I'm gonna skip that one. Okay. Oh, yes, thank you. No, it's okay. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Same thing with 12.4. All right, next one, 12.5, approve special education agreement. I need a motion. Jason and Shannon. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the agreement between the district and Westchester Institute for Human Development to provide comprehensive assistive technology evaluations in one or more of the following disciplines: speech language pathologist and or occupational therapist, effective for the 2022-2023 school year as follows. One discipline, $1,380. Two disciplines, $1,890. Training fees, $225 an hour. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the Superintendent of Schools to execute the agreement. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 12.6, I need a motion to approve a special education agreement, AccuCare Nursing. Tom and Tom. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves entering into an agreement of services with AccuCare Nursing to provide nursing services to a special education student effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023 at a rate of $65 per hour for registered nurses, $55 per hour for licensed practical nurses, and other rates, transportation, nursing, short notice staffing, as per agreement. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute the agreement. All those in favor? Opposed? 12.7, I need a motion to approve special education agreement, occupational therapy registered services. Okay, Brett, Jason? Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves entering into an agreement for services with Megan Tui, how do you say that? Sabah? Okay, thank you. To provide occupational therapy registered services to special education students, effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, at a rate of $90 per hour as needed as per agreement. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to execute the agreement. All those in favor? Opposed? 12.8, I need a motion to approve execution of consent order and judgment and tax tertiary refund, Stone Ridge Apartments. Jason and Brett? Be it resolved that the Board of Education authorizes its attorneys, Shaw, Harrison, May, and Lambert, LLP, to execute a consent order and judgment in a tax certiorari proceeding captioned Stone Ridge Manor Apartments versus Town of Walk Hill and Goshen Central School District. Be it further resolved that the Board authorizes the refund of taxes as required by the terms of the consent order and judgment. Be it further resolved that in order to fund said tax certiorari judgment refund, budgetary appropriations for the 2022-2023 school year shall be increased. A, 1964.400, and that the tax certiorari judgment refund amount to be transferred to the general fund budget from the tax certiorari reserve as the offsetting source of revenue. All those in favor? Opposed? 12.9, I need a motion to approve execution of consent judgment and tax certiorari refund, C.H. Harrisburg LLC. Tom and Billy. Resolved that the Board of Education authorizes its attorneys, Shaw, Carlson, May, and Lambert, LLP, to execute a consent judgment in a tax certiorari proceeding captioned C.H. Harrisburg, LLC versus Town of Goshen and the Goshen Central School District. Be it further resolved that the Board authorizes the refund of taxes as required by the terms of the consent judgment. Be it further resolved that in order to fund said tax tertiary judgment refund, budgetary appropriations for the 2022-2023 school year shall be increased, and that the tax tertiary judgment refund amount be transferred to the general fund budget from the tax tertiary reserve as the offsetting source of revenue. All those in favor? Opposed? That's a lot.
I just have, we're done with that?
With that one,
Okay. In the past, we've put the amounts in. Okay, right, we've always done that?
I think it'd be helpful.
Could we do that moving forward, please?
Okay. Well, you got some information from the legal counsel.
Got it, okay.
So we're good to go? 12.10, I need a motion to accept donation and authorize increase to budget the GIS PTO. And Brett and Shannon. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education accepts the donation of $5,000 from the Goshen Intermediate School PTO for the purchase of audio equipment for the stage in Goshen Intermediate School. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education approves increasing the 2022-2023 budget by $5,000 to support the associated expenditures. Do you want me to go through the appropriations, Maureen? As presented? That's really nice. Thank you. That's awesome. All those in favor? Opposed? Next one, 12.11, I need a motion to accept an award bid for uniforms, mats, and mops. Shannon and Billy. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education awards bid number RFB BG0005-22 and contract for uniforms, mats, and mops, service and supply rental, effective August 1st, 2022 through July 31st, 2023, to Ulster Uniform Service, Inc., 541 Broadway, Kingston, New York, 12401, as per bid specification and prices submitted in their bid of July 1st, 2022. All those in favor? Opposed? Need a motion for 12.12, approve revised supplemental memorandum of agreements with Goshen Administrators Association. Jason and Tom? Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the terms of 2 revised supplemental memorandum of agreements between the district and the Goshen Administrators Association dated July 8th, 2022, regarding the terms of employment for a 10-month assistant principal position and the terms of an interim principal position at Scotchtown Avenue Elementary School, as presented to the board at this meeting. All in favor? Opposed? I need a motion to approve the superintendent to attend the New York State Council of School Superintendents Fall Conference. Okay, Billy and Shannon. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves the superintendent of schools attending the New York State Council of Superintendents Fall Conference in Saratoga Springs, New York, from September 18th through September 20th, 2022. All those in favor? Opposed?
Want to do the agenda now?
Sure.
Did they take this group?
Thank you. All right, I need a motion to approve the AP history trip to Barcelona. Okay, Brett and Jason. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the AP history trip to Barcelona, Spain during winter break 2023. Be it further resolved that the board reserves the right to cancel or reschedule any school-sponsored trip or activity in the event of any emergency condition outside of the control of the school district in its sole discretion. Did I read it wrong?
No, my question for you is, did we have a conversation regarding the title, AP History Trip to Barcelona? And possibly just putting trip to Barcelona?
Oh, because we did talk about the fact that it wouldn't just be solely for AP history.
Right, to open it up
Correct.
to.
So I had a long conversation with Ms. Panzer about that. She understands all hands on deck to make sure that we get to our 31 so that we can make people home. She understands come outside of the scope of AP history and then we can do this.
Okay, perfect. So we're all good for the trip to Barcelona. Fantastic, thank you.
Perfect, thanks. All those in favor? Opposed? Next item on the agenda is privilege of the floor. Next item, any board member issues or committee reports?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one question. Regarding the letter of gains, have all the staff members been board approved to work over the summer?
No, all of our employees are current employees who are able to fill them retroactively.
Okay, so
At the next board meeting, we'll have the full slate of those who are working to be able to be approved.
wonderful.
If they were not current employees, it would
They
be,
would have to be.
they'd have to be approved prior, but because they're current employees, they can be approved retroactively.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you.
I just want to say, Jason wasn't at the last meeting, all right? And what a lot of people don't know, and obviously you all know, the last few years have been very difficult in the school district, very difficult. A lot of you don't know what Jason Pucci has done behind the scenes as president. He's done more for this district in those 3 years than some of the leadership did, all right? So I just want to say thank you for 5 years and 3 of the hardest years this district hopefully will never see again. But I just want to say thank you.
I'll just piggyback off that and say thank you, appreciate that. And it was a team effort from everybody. And I appreciate all the support over the years and the support the last year from our new members. And I look forward to working with our new members in my new capacity or new old capacity. And I also like to say, Allison and Tom, congratulations. Well deserved. You guys have been on the board for 8 years. This is your 9th year, both of you. Very, very committed to our district, so I'm 100% confident you guys do a great job. And I am 100% behind you guys in any way I can help. You know I'm always here, and I know the rest of the board's here to help you as well. And looking forward to your leadership in making Goshen the best it can be.
When we hire new employees, it's always wonderful to have them at our board meeting for their appointment. And it's my pleasure tonight to welcome Dr. Kelly Lemons, who will serve as one of our new English teachers at Goshen High School, and Ms. Sarah Tierney, who will serve as our new guidance counselor in C.J. Hooker Middle School. Thank you both for being here. It is a great affirmation of your commitment to our district and a true testament to the hiring process for you to be here to show to the board your seriousness and your commitment to our school district. So thank you for being here tonight.
And it's always nice to put the face with the name, yeah. There's a lot of employees, so a lot of times if we don't have students in the actual building, we don't get a chance to see you, so thank you. And welcome aboard. Next item, I need a motion to go into executive session. And Brett and Shannon. Be it resolved, the Board of Education will enter into executive session with the intent to not reconvene the business portion of the meeting for discussions related to the employment history of a particular person. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?